Hello, and a warm welcome to our weekly show, Love Athletics. In this program, we bring you the latest highlights from our sport with expert input from different continental areas. And we're delighted to have as our guest today Kenyan broadcast journalist Celestine Karoney. Hello, Celestine. Lovely to
Hi.
see you again, and a big thank you for joining us.
Hello. Yeah, nice to be here as usual.
Now, we had promised you lots of time to talk about the African Championships, and we will analyze the event in depth. But let's look first at what's been happening globally over the last 7 days before we come back to our guest. So, favorite moments from the last week, starting with stadium event. We had Diamond League meeting on 16 June in the Bislett Games in Oslo. Unfortunately, there were rain showers and cold weather which hampered the competition, but still two world leads. First, it was Mondo Duplantis, who added another centimeter to his season's best to clear 6 meters 02, a remarkable feat in the rain. Then, to the delight of the home crowd, two Norwegians were second and third in the pole vault, Sondre Guttormsen and Paul Haugen Lillefosse, both with 5 meters 80. The second world lead came at the end of the program, and it was a special one for the home crowd. As Olympic 1500-meter champion Jakob Ingebrigtsen clocked 3:46.46 to become the first Norwegian to win the legendary Dream Mile in Oslo and move up to 6th spot in the all-time list. Oliver Hoare was second in 3:47.48, an area record for the Australian, who continues a very solid season after his 5th place in the world indoors. In the 400-meter hurdles, Brazil's Alisson dos Santos continued his dominant season with a 4th win in 4 races and came very close to his world lead with an excellent 47.26. Another notable result included the win in the women's discus by Sandra Perkovic over Tokyo Olympic champion and world leader Valerie Allman, 66 meters 82 to 65.91. This was a 45th record Diamond League win for the Croatian, who is the 2012 and 2016 Olympic champion. In the last week, 2 Continental Tour gold events were also held in New York and Turku, with 1 world lead in each event. On 12 June, USATF New York Grand Prix, the outstanding achievement came in the 110 hurdles, where Devon Allen clocked a sizzling 12.84, roundly defeating world indoor champion Grant Holloway to become the 3rd fastest all-time after Arias Merritt, whose world record stands at 12.80 and was set in 2012, and Grant Holloway, 12.81 last year in the Olympic semifinal. And what makes the performance even more special is that Allen was signed by the Philadelphia Eagles NFL club in April and has been working on his football skills as well as the hurdles. Now, this is not new for him, as he had already been doing both sports at college in Arizona and at the University in Eugene between 2014 and 2016, before a series of injuries persuaded him to focus on track and field after rehab. He had said in a feature by World Athletics that he wanted to break the world record and win the World Championships before moving to the NFL. And this result makes his ambitions look a lot more plausible for an athlete who, before now, had only once broken the 13-second barrier last September. Other top marks in New York came in the sprints, with Noah Lyles clocking 19.61 in the 200 meter, Christian Coleman 9.92 in the shorter sprint, and Aaliyah Hobbs prevailing over Sha'Carri Richardson 10.83 to 10.85 in the women's race. 2 days later, Paavo Nurmi Games in Turku, Finland, the world lead came from 20-year-old Briton Max Bergen, who dominated the 800-meter field to win in 1:43.52. And other top results came in the throws. Olympic champion Daniel Stoll came out tops of a strong field in the discus with 70 meters 62, and the top four all threw over 67 meters. In the javelin, Finn Oliver Helander improved to 89.93 to beat Olympic champion Neeraj Chopra, who set an Indian record of 89 meters 30 in his first competition since Tokyo. 6 men have now thrown over 89 meters this year, confirming what we said last week with PJ Vazel, that throws are among the most exciting and high-level events this season. Now, various championships concluded last weekend. The Oceania Championships were held in Mackay, Australia from 7 to 11 June, whereas we remember an area record had been set in the 100 meters by New Zealand's Zoe Hobbs, and that remained the standout performance of the championship. On 8 to 11 June, the NCAA Division I Championships took place in Eugene, USA, and they were highlighted by great sprints and hurdles performances, including 2 world leads. Trey Cunningham produced another great race, clocking 13 seconds flat on 10 June to win the 110 hurdles, a world lead at the time, though we saw it was greatly improved by Devon Allen 2 days later. The other world lead came from sprinter Abby Steiner with an excellent 21.80 in the women's 200 meters. Steiner had also placed third in the 100 meters, while Nigeria's Favour Ofili, who has set multiple African records this year, was below her best, finishing second in the 200 and only fifth in the 100 meters. Other remarkable results included the sprint double for Liberia's Joseph Fanbule, who had placed fifth in the 200 meters at the Tokyo Olympics last year. Fanbule set national records in both events, clocking 10 seconds flat in the shorter distance and 19.83 at 200, moving up to equal fourth on the season's list, the only non-US athlete among the top 12. Another athlete to win 2 medals was heptathlete Anna Hall, who, not content with the 7 disciplines of her main event, which she won with 6,385 points, also placed second in the 400-meter hurdles, which started less than 25 minutes before the final event of the heptathlon, the 800-meter. Hall had persuaded the coaches to let her run the hurdles, and the points she earned there were crucial in allowing the University of Florida to win the team title. But it's time now to focus on the African Championships, which were held in Saint-Pierre, Mauritius, from 8 to 12 June. Now, Celestine, we had promised you during your last participation on this show back in April that you would have plenty of time to discuss the African Championships. So tell us, what were your highlights of the continental event?
Anna, for me, it was the sprints, and I mean across the board, not just the short sprints. But if you can start with the short sprints, never have we in the continent been so excited about the sprints. You know, we always talk about middle and long distance running in this continent, but to be excited about the sprints was amazing. The men's 100 meters has had so much drama, waiting 5 minutes for the results. You know, Ferdinand Obanyala from Kenya and Akani Simbine, the main protagonists there in that 100 meters. You know, that was very exciting. And then looking at the women's 100 meters, Gina Bars winning a gold medal, a medal of any color for Gambia for the very first time in the African Athletics Championships, you know. So the sprints were extremely exciting, and especially when you consider how the weather rained havoc. Literally, it was not, you know, the conditions were a bit difficult. Some athletes would get to the field on certain days and told the events have been moved, or they had warmed up and then they told, okay, look, your event will not happen because the rain has caused a problem. In fact, there's an athlete who complained they didn't warm up, you know, when it ran, and I mean, still won. I believe it was Letsile Tebogo from Botswana in the 200 meters. So it was very nice to see Kenya winning 4x1 meters sprint relay gold medal. So I mean, for me, the highlights were the sprints.
That was definitely something. I mean, historical gold medal for Kenya in the relays and the 4x100. That was quite amazing. But tell us about the women's sprints, because honestly, for me, that was a huge surprise. Maximila Imali taking silver in 23:43 after finishing fifth on the 100 meters. Now, it's true that some of the top sprinters on the continent were not in Mauritius, many busy with the NCAA championships being held at the same time. But tell us, did you really think before the competition that Kenya could get a medal in the women's sprints?
Well, I'd be lying to say I didn't think Kenya would win a medal in the women's sprints. But look, I think for Maximila especially, if you look at that silver medal for her, you almost feel like she's realizing her potential. Fine, we have to mention, as we start this discussion, like you have, that NCAA stars were not there, and this would be favor of Philly, for example, from Nigeria, who, the silver medalist from the under-20 World Youth Championships. We know she's a brilliant 200-meter runner. We know Christine Mboma, the Olympic silver medalist, was not there through injury, which she picked here in Nairobi in the Kip Keino Classic, the Continental Tour Gold meet. So already the field was open. The field was opening up, and there was a chance to medal. But you've often felt like Maximila Imali has not really been realizing her potential, and I think this silver medal is going to make a difference in her career. She's going to feel that, fine, I was able to win something on in the continent, and it might just spur her on to push a little bit more. We hope to see what she can do, especially if she can get into the team for mainly the Commonwealth Games. I'm not really sure about the team for the World Championships, but if she can get into a major and we see what she can do, then it would be very good. But yes, that was a big surprise for us. But look, and again, Anna, these are competitions. We know what is a competition without a surprise, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And as you say, a lot of suspense in the men's 100 meters when it went down to 3,000ths of a second. 9.927 for Ferdinand Omanyala and 9.930 for Akani. That is really, really great sprinting. And it was cool to see, them hugging each other after. There's a great spirit there.
Yes, exactly. And, it had really been talked about. And the builder had been the African record holder versus the African champion. Now, the African champion, you got the feeling in the sense that Akani Simbine wanted to sort of, take something back after losing that African record holder title to Omanyala last year. But I mean, that 100 meters had everything, and I think you could see, Anna, after the long wait for that 0.03 split thousandth of a second to split the winners. The first reaction from Akani in the mix zone was, he wasn't really happy. You could tell he wasn't. He didn't feel like the result was the right description of the photo finish. But I mean, who are we? We are not the judges. But I mean, ultimately he accepted the result and he was like, okay, you know what? This is the result that has been given. But for me, I think what was key here was we have two athletes we can talk about in the sprints. We have, I think the last time we were this excited about the 100 meters was when Frankie Fredericks was running. That was in 1997 or something. It was way back. So Anna, that 100 meters has given Africans something to be excited about. Especially, we want to see them now, Anna, up against Christian Coleman, a fit Mark Jacobs, because he couldn't, run at the, at the Continental Tour. In here, he got unwell and couldn't run against Omanyala. So we want to see how our African athletes can hold up against, against the world, against the Jamaicans and the Americans, and then, the Ghanaian university students as well, who are at the NCAAs who couldn't come. So I think it's going to be even more exciting, Anna.
No, definitely. I mean, as you quite correctly point out, having actually a duel at the top of world sprinting by African athletes is really something which is going to be great for the sport on the continent. Mm-mm. On the other hand, I have to ask you, Celestine, what is happening to Kenya's male distance runners? Because in races from the 800 to the 3000 steeplechase, Kenya got only one gold in the 1500, courtesy of Abel Kipsang, while 3 wins went to Ethiopia, 5, 10, and a steeplechase, and 1 to Algeria.
Anna, I'm telling you, there is a big concern. Okay, first and foremost, we have to realize that some athletes chose instead to run the Rome Diamond League. I mean, we also, Kimeli ran the 7th fastest 5,000 meters in Rome, 12:46 was that. He set a new personal best, and that excited us. But when we came to Africa, it was such a concern. And I think, Anna, from where I sit, I see as though what we are seeing is a lot of our young athletes who would ideally go into track are transitioning too quickly into the road. This is gone are the days of Paul Tergat, who would run the track, and Eliud Kipchoge, who would run the track for 10 years and then say, okay, well, I've done everything I can here. Now I'm going to the road. Because of the allure of the prize money in the road races, a lot of athletes, even athletes who initially started in their juniors as 800-meter middle distance runners, they are quickly graduating, into road races. And so this is taking away a bulk of athletes who we would, because ideally, even if Kenya was not sending its top tier, which at the African Championships, we rarely do, because most of the time it's clashing with a one-day meet, or if it's a world championship like this one, they would choose to run the world championship instead, or an Olympic Games. But even the athletes who you would say, this is not even the right word to use, who wouldn't be top tier, I don't want to say B-rated and C-rated, but who wouldn't be top tier, would still win medals in the past, Anna. We were with you in Porto over 2012, I remember, athletes who, and this would be the platform where you would get to know some of these other Kenyan athletes. Yes. So now what we are seeing, that is not happening. So that is a big concern. And I would imagine you would think that maybe Athletics Kenya should start thinking of a national program where they monitor athletes better, like what Ethiopia has. And then maybe that might change the tide, because then otherwise you then play second fiddle, because it will start at the Africa Championships. And then tomorrow you'll find it at World or Olympics where you don't have enough depth.
Yeah, it's true. As you say, it's also true that African Championships, the participation level is a bit lower in years when it doesn't qualify for what used to be the Continental Cup. That was a big motivation. Before it was put on hold for the top athletes on the continent to come. But still it's probably a specific program on the part of Athletics Kenya would be good. Now, on the other hand, thank goodness for the Kenyan ladies who took 4 victories in those distances and only let slip the 3,000-meter steeplechase.
Yeah, in fact, we're starting to get worried, Anna, that the 3,000-meter steeplechase is going to start being called an Ethiopian race, because now we still had that one thing to hang on to. I mean, of course, not in the women. In the women, it's not been our strongest race. But yes, I think the women was quite impressive. I mean, you had your regulars, like Winnie Chebet, has been the African circuit, has won before and winning again. And then you had Beatrice Chebet, a name we know in the 5,000 meters. But I think if I could single out a woman from the Kenyan team, was Caroline Nyaga. After that bronze in the 5K, then she comes and wins in the 10,000 meters. And what is interesting is that in the 10,000 meters, she was asked to come in after an athlete pulled out, or rather didn't appear in camp. So she had finished 4th in the national trials, and then they were like, "Oh, look, Caroline, you have there's an open slot for the African team because an athlete didn't turn up. Here you go. Here's your ticket." And she repaid that with a gold medal, and that was really nice, And there's this note that she shared before she received a package when she was in Mauritius from none other than Faith Kipyegon. It was a new pair of spikes with a little note that says "all the best." And these are the little small things that you just hear about, and you get, it warms your heart. Yes, and Caroline is not like a young athlete. She's been around. She's what, 28, is it? She's been around. She's just never had the opportunity to make it to a national team and be able to perform like this. So I think this was almost like her coming out moment. It was her breakthrough, really. Yeah.
That's a great story about Caroline, both the fact that she wasn't initially supposed to run the 10 and this little package from Faith Kipyegon is just so sweet.
Yeah,
I like her even more. I mean, she's a magnificent athlete, but this shows she's also a great human being. Wonderful.
Exactly.
Let's take a look now at other countries and let's have a look at the medal table of the African Championships. So Kenya's diversification outside its traditional playground in the middle and long distances allowed it to lead the medal table with notable goals, as we saw in the 100-meter men and the men's 4x1 relay, in the javelin men, and in the two 20-kilometer race walk races. South Africa, as usual, did very well in the throws, as did Nigeria, and other technical events. And Algeria did particularly well among the men, with golds in the 800, 110 hurdles, high jump, pole vault, and decathlon. To note, on the other hand, that other North African countries, Morocco, Egypt, and Tunisia, have 0 gold medals, while they used to be among the top contenders on the continent. Ethiopia and Botswana have 4 golds each, concentrated for Ethiopia, as we saw in the long distances, and for Botswana, mainly in the sprints, 200 men, also long jump, 4 by 400 men, 4 by 400 mixed relay. Although they lost their supremacy in the 400 meters, where favorite Baya Pondori was defeated by Zambia's Muzala Samukonga in the last meters. Now, my favorite stories from the African Championships. Number 1 is Botswana's Thalosang Chirele Letso, who won the long jump with 7 meters 82 and took silver behind Zongo in the triple jump with 16.77. The 31-year-old, who is a professor of civil engineering at the University of Botswana, had first passed 8 meters on 30 April this year and improved his triple jump PB in the course of the AAC by over 40 centimeters, placing second, as we saw, behind Burkina Faso's Fabrice Zongo in the final, where he went even further, but the wind was beyond the legal limit. I also loved the 100-meter women, which you talked about earlier, Celestine. Not the most important. It was, Gina Bass, as we said, first medal ever for the Gambia over Niger's Aminatou Seini. The wind was over the limit in the final, plus 4.8 meters per second. But in the earlier rounds, both athletes had improved their national records. 11.08 for Bass and 11.07 for Seini. So Gina Bass, first medal ever for the Gambia at the African Championships. But let's not forget that she had won 200-meter gold and 100-meter silver at the 2019 All-Africa Games. And she was a finalist at 200 meters during the World Championships in Doha 2019. Aminatou Seini is no longer a surprise after winning the 200 meters at 2 World Continental Tour gold events in Nairobi and Ostrava, and she went on to take 200-meter gold in Mauritius. Both athletes live and train in France and compete for French clubs. And finally, my third pick is in the heptathlon women, where gold went to Benin's Odile Ahouana-Yoyou, who was a finalist already at the last World Championships in Doha, finishing 8th, and was second last year in Ratingen, one of the top combined events meetings. I just love it when athletes from smaller countries, which are not athletics powerhouses, are so successful. So let's take a look now at the best performances in Mauritius. Among the men, the 100 meters with Ferdinand Omanyala and Akani Simbine is the one that has the highest result score, followed by Nigeria's Chukwu Ebuka and Ekweshi in the shot put with very, very strong 21 meters 20. Then we have 3 wind-aided performances and the triple jump. And we must remember that when performances are wind-aided, then points are deducted because of the help from the tailwind. So triple jump, Hugues Fabrice Zongo, 1734. 110-meter hurdles, Amin Bouanani of Algeria, 1326, also very, very good result. And 200 meters, Letsile Tebogo, 2026. Among the women, top results are in the sprints and hurdles. 100 meters, Aminatou Seini in the heats, 11:07 is the highest result score. Tobia Musan has 2 marks there in the semifinal and in the final. Then Gina Bass with her 11:08 mark from the semifinals, and 200-meter heats, Aminatou Seini with 22:62. So definitely very strong sprint and sprint hurdles among the ladies, more mixed among the men. And as we said, a pity that strong winds and rain showers hampered part of the competition. Let's have a look at multi-medalists at the African Championships. So Ethiopia's Haile Mariam Amare Tegeny first took gold in the 3,000 meter steeplechase and then added another gold at 5,000. And I just love the huge smile on his face as he pulls away from the other contenders in the steeplechase after the last water jump. Then, as we saw, Botswana's Thalosang Shireletso took gold in the long jump and then added silver in the triple jump. Nigeria's Aminatou Seini, silver in the 100 behind Gina Bass before taking gold at 200 meters. And finally, as Celestine mentioned, Caroline Nyaga first took bronze at 5,000 meters and then added gold over 10,000. So congratulations to all those medalists. There are other athletes who won medals in individual events and in relays, including, of course, Ferdinand Omanyala and Nigeria's Tobia Musan, who also took gold in the 4x100 meter relay. But the official results from Mauritius don't give the composition of the relays. So in order not to have not to penalize athletes so we aren't aware of, we just focused on the individual events. And finally, congratulations to athletes who increased their already impressive collection of gold medals at the African Championships. First of all, Algeria's Larbi Bourada, who took another decathlon gold, his 5th, after also winning the championships in 2:08, 2:10, 2:14, 2:18. And Kenya's Julius Yego, who chalked up his 4th title after 2012, 2014, and 2018. Congratulations to both of them. We also have an interesting video in French at the end of the program from African Championships press chief Reynolds Quirin. Celestine, do you have a final comment about the continental event?
And with our continental events, when we see that mix, you have your old athletes, or rather, old is the wrong word, experienced, seasoned athletes who come in and then they find their form again. For example, for Julius Yego, that javelin gold medal was extremely important for his competition confidence after what has really been 3 difficult years or so for him. So he's going to use that as a motivation to, going forward. And then it's good to see new countries on the medal table. Still excited about Unibus. And and then we seem to be seeing a trend here, Anna, in the jumps. The professor from Botswana of civil engineering in the long jump, and then Hughes Fabrice is doing his PhD at him in the triple jump. So is it a thing? We need to investigate this.
Definitely looks like triple jumpers are intellectuals.
Yeah, I think so. I think we need to look into that.
And I was also thrilled for Diego because, it was such a huge story. And I was so happy to see him coming back to a really good level. And as you say, this will give him confidence going into the World Championships.
Absolutely, Anna.
Thank you, Celestine. So let's leave Africa now and go back to the world stage. Outstanding achievements in the last week include a world under 20 record in the discus throw by Germany's Mika Sosna, who threw a massive 71 meters 37 with the 175 kilo implement in Schönebeck on 3 June, bettering the record which had stood for over 18 years. And an area record was set in Watford on 11 June by Brazil's Tatiane da Silva, who improved the continental mark in the 3,000 meter steeplechase to 9:24:38. Other top marks from stadium events included the following world leads, both set in the triple jump at the Spanish Club Championships in La Nucia. On 11 June, Venezuela's Olympic world and indoor champion Yolimar Rojas, making her outdoor debut, leapt to 14 meters 83. And among the men, Cuban-born Jordan Diaz Fortun, waiting to be able to compete for Spain, improved to 17 meters 76, setting a new national record for his adopted country. And finally, to conclude our overview of stadium events, we send our very best wishes for a prompt recovery to Anita Włodarczyk. The Olympic hammer throw champion was to compete at the Polish Championships last Friday, but she had to pull out. She explained on her social media platform that a thief was trying to steal her car, but she stopped him and handed him over to the police. However, as she announced, my track season has come to an end. When I ran after the thief, I totally tore my thigh tendon. The adrenaline was such that I didn't even feel it. Włodarczyk had surgery on Monday under the supervision of Dr. Robert Śmigielsk, who has already operated on her for the 5th time in the course of her sport career. Not one to be stopped by injuries or setbacks, Włodarczyk stated, "In 2 years, I will be back on the podium in Paris, but now with my leg in a cast for a few weeks." And the quadruple world and European champion even joked that after her throwing career, she would fight for Poland in the mixed martial arts or ultimate fighting championships. We'll be waiting for you to return to athletics, Anita. Which reminds me, Celestine, you remember that there was a thief who also tried to steal from Nigerian 1996 Olympic long jump champion Choma Junwa. And she also chased and caught up with him.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, and this one for Chioma was quite interesting because she's a policewoman. She's always been a policewoman. So you wouldn't imagine that you wouldn't want to steal from a policewoman. But I think now we are learning that, Anna, you don't want to steal from a sporter, from an athlete, because they'll hunt you down, they'll chase you down, Sadly, now Anita is in a cost, but at least Chioma did not, get any injury. When
she didn't suffer any injuries, which was a lot luckier than poor Anita, who is kind of it's not the first time she has some freak accident. You remember in Berlin, 89, when she won her first world title and she was jumping up and down for joy and she injured her ankle.
Yes, yes, yes. At least she had already won by that time, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But I mean, it's always very weird when athletes get these freak accidents. You know, nothing. In fact, one athlete once told me that it feels you kick yourself a lot. You know, afterwards. You know, because you're thinking, oh, God, did I have to do this? You know, was it necessary? Yeah. So I think you have a bit of guilt for putting yourself in that situation.
Well, as we said, at least Anita is not new to comebacks, and I'm really looking forward to see her. Maybe not this year, but at the World Championships in Budapest next year, and of course in Paris.
Absolutely.
Thank you. So let's move on now to road events. On 11 June, women only mini 10K in New York saw Senbere Teferi, the 5-kilometer world record holder, take the win in 30:43 over a field that included many top marathoners. US-based Kenyan Sharon Lokedi was second, and the USA's Kira D'Amato third, while Olympic champion Perez Jepchirchir suffered a bad fall and finished fifth. Now, in other athletics news, we spoke last week about Maria Lasitskene's open letter to Thomas Bach, and Yulia Levchenko, the Ukrainian 217 World Championship silver medalist behind Lasitskene, strongly criticized the Russian Olympic champion in an Instagram post, saying she had not received a single word from the Russian athlete in the weeks after 24 February, when at dawn a rocket landed just 5 kilometers from her home. And she concluded, "Do you think that sport is more important than the right to live? You are not allowed because you are a Russian, and they kill us simply because we are Ukrainians. Do you feel the difference?" So let's look now at upcoming events as we reach the end of our show. On 18 June, tonight, Meeting de Paris in Paris, Diamond League. Also on the 18 Continental Tour Silver event in Madrid, and another Continental Tour Silver event in Cortane, Finland. On 18-19, Balkan Championships in Craiova, Romania. And then on the 23rd of June until the 26th, US Trials Championships and Trials for the World Championships in Eugene. And many other national championships also start on Friday, 24th. So let's check out now this video from in French from African Championships press chief Reynolds Quirin. Ray was at all 3 editions of the African Championships, which took place in Mauritius in 1992, 2006, and 2012. Let's listen.
Des championnats d'Afrique d'athlétisme. La première édition était en 1992, où déjà le public mauricien avait eu un contact privilégié avec l'athlétisme africain grâce au duel tant attendu entre Elena Meyer et Dorothée Toulou. Donc c'était vraiment un prélude avant les Jeux Olympiques de Barcelone. Le monde a vraiment découvert ce duel à Barcelone, mais les Mauriciens ont eu le privilège quelques mois auparavant de le découvrir au stade Anjalé à Bellevue, à Maurice, ce fameux duel entre l'Afrique du Sud et l'Éthiopie. Et puis ce contact est toujours resté avec le public mauricien en 2006 avec les championnats d'Afrique à Bambou, où encore une fois le public mauricien était en fusion et en communion avec ce qui se faisait de mieux en matière d'athlétisme africain. Et cette année encore, mais ça a été différent, le contexte sanitaire oblige. On s'est retrouvé avec une compétition qui a eu lieu à huis clos, donc sans public. C'était quelque peu une atmosphère vraiment bizarre et différent, où il y avait que les officiels, les dirigeants et quelques athlètes dans les gradins. Donc c'était pas la même chose, il y avait pas cette communion avec le public. Donc je pense que c'est ça qui a été vraiment le point le plus particulier de cette 22e édition des championnats d'Afrique. Et puis au-delà de cet aspect communion publique et contexte sanitaire qui a obligé une compétition à huis clos, je crois que c'est la première fois dans l'histoire de l'athlétisme mondial où une compétition africaine a lieu à huis clos. On retiendra surtout, je pense, l'émergence de Letsile Tebogo, le sprinter botswanais qui a vraiment fait forte impression. C'est pas qu'une question de performance, mais dans son attitude, dans sa façon d'aborder la compétition, dans sa relation qu'il a eue avec la presse présente lors de ces 5 jours de compétition. Il faut dire que on sent que c'est une étoile montante de l'athlétisme mondial et on a hâte de voir ce qu'il nous prépare à l'avenir.
So Ray had left his job as a sports journalist some years ago, but his love for the sport is such that he took days off his current job when the continental event came back to Mauritius. He tells us how in the 1992 event saw the first duel between Ethiopia's Derartu Tulu and South Africa's Elana Meyer, which was to be the iconic moment of the Olympic Games in Barcelona a few weeks later. This year, unfortunately, due to the pandemic, events had to be held behind closed doors, resulting in a bizarre and different atmosphere. And Ray highlights Botswana's Letsile Tebogo as his moment of the championships, not so much for the performance itself, but for his attitude, his handling of the competition, and his relations with the press over the course of the championships. A true rising star in world athletics, which makes him look forward to the young athletes' performances in the coming weeks. So we're now at the end of our program. It was great having Celestine with us again on the show.
Always a pleasure, Anna.
Thank you, Celestine. Thank you all for watching, and see you next week on Love Athletics to look together at the highlights, comments, and analysis of what's been happening in our sport over the past week. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye, Celeste.